7 p.m. We'll have roll call of directors.
Alice?
Here.
Barnes?
Here.
Hewis?
Here.
Gorman? Here. Kaiser?
Here.
Kramer? Here. Field?
Here.
Tomcheck? Zebro? Here. Lauren Kaiser? Here. All present except Tomcheck.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alice and a second by Mark Lewis. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes of Special Board of Education meeting January 23rd, 17. Regular Board of Education meeting January 23rd, 17.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Mark Lewis, second by Diane Gorman. Is there any other discussion?
That was both sets of minutes? Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, public forum. The public forum is provided for the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board meeting agenda, general operating rules. The public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Prior to addressing the board, please clearly state your name and address. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? I see no one, and we'll move on. Special presentation, item 7A, PPO annual donation.
I got it done too. You know, my name is Donna Nelson. I'm kindergarten teacher, PTO volunteer, longtime member. With me tonight is Mary Dahl. She's a middle school teacher's aide. She's a longtime member of the PTO, fundraiser chairman, and currently president of the PTO. Now, I've been here many times to do this, but this year it's a little bit more special because the PTO stands for Parent-Teacher Organization, and we all know that we need the parents and we need the teachers as part of our organization. And with everyone else, it's been harder and harder to get people to be involved. We're grateful that we've got some board support. Mike came to some meetings. Thank you, Mike. The administrators are coming to meetings. But even with all that support, it came to a vote this year of whether to disband the PTO. And when you think of the money that the PTO brings in, mainly through this fundraiser, it's kind of a scary time. But through a core group that was committed to doing what was best and working hard together, they voted to continue. So fortunately, we're able to come forward today for this reason because they decided to stay together and working hard. The meetings, for those of you that are interested, is the second Monday of every month. So Mary's going to talk a little bit more about what PTO does.
I just want to touch on a few things that the PTO does for the school. We have scholarships for seniors every year. So if you know any seniors who have volunteered in the past or want to apply for a scholarship, we give several of those. We do a lot of funding for the field trips, for the supplies for needy students. We have mini grants. We provide the sock hop, the 4-5 fun night. We do also other requests for additional funding as needed. I know this year we're going to give some money to Katie for a new rug at the elementary school and other things as they come up. We also do turkey bingo. We help with the book fair, things like that. Well, this year we had a PTO-sponsored basketball show. Last year was the BMX bike show, which I don't know if any of you heard or saw. The kids loved it. That was the reward for the fundraiser, and we did open that to all students, not just the kids who sold. We sponsor snacks at open house, the giving tree, author visits, assemblies on bullying and reading, trips to the Grand Theater, popcorn parties, artist residency, donations to needy families, Read Across America, playground equipment, literacy night, and then also for some of the high school clubs to do some travel for competitions.
So probably one of the biggest impacts the PTO has to our district is their fundraiser, which has been difficult finding a fundraiser chair, finding people to help with delivery, because a lot of money of goods come in and out of that high school. But calculating from 2002 to present, they have given over $266,000 to our district for use in enrichment opportunities for kids.
In light of our recent struggles, this particular donation is especially important. The donation we're presenting tonight is for enrichment activities for our students, things that otherwise would not be possible through the budgets. One thing the PTO has asked the administrators in the past is to share with the PTO what the monies were spent on for their records, and it gives us help in deciding how to best support the schools. On behalf of the Mosinee PTO, I would like to present a check in the amount of $15,000. Wow. For enrichments for our students, and it's going to be split evenly between the 3 schools. Awesome.
Thank you.
Here, you stand up. Thanks. Great.
The PTO is quite an organization, and I'd hate to lose it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary, for everything.
Thanks.
So special thanks to Mary for not giving up when this year was incredibly trying. Those principals went ahead and shared how they spent those funds last year, so we incredibly appreciative. I know this is not Mr. Lind flying through the air, but there is, that was a pretty awesome trampoline basketball show. Pretty cool.
Who do we use for our pizza? Where do we get our pizzas from?
This last 2 years, we went with Club's Choice, and they're out of the La Crosse area. At our next March meeting, we're going to have 3 companies do presentations to see who we were going to go with next year.
Richard McHugh was an alumni, and he is a fight chip. In fact, I was at his plant, and I'll have to get in touch with him.
Yeah, yep.
And see what we will do.
Yeah, because they can just contact me, and we're setting up at the next meeting to start gearing up for the fall fundraiser. So we'll be picking a company, hopefully in March or April, to go through.
Okay, I'll give him a call. Thank you very much. Okay, item B is district update. Dr. Ann Schultz, school superintendent.
We're pretty excited tonight, not for my presentation, but for all of the teams to be able to present to you, just to give you an update on what our goals were. At the beginning of the year, we accepted our goals, the school district did, and this is just a little how are we doing midway through the year. Remember, we started way back in the data retreat, and that's really the heart and soul of what we do for the school year, is taking a look at all that district data and breaking it down to individual schools, reviewing that data, and then determining what our focus will be. So we have a focus on student achievement. You will see the student achievement reported out in all of the building level goals. Professional compensation to promote that personal growth and learning in our staff. The best thing that we can give our kids are great teachers. So we designed a compensation model that would allow us to do just that and would promote that personal and professional growth of our staff. We report out on that to you quarterly on how much our staff is engaged in professional growth and development. And our team development, we've been working really hard. You're going to see 3 teams tonight present to you So our work on team development has been very intensive this year. Technology, Brady just gave us an update at the last board meeting on how our technology plan is rolling out. Positive employee relations, we're gonna be going through a survey with all of our employees, and that'll happen again this spring. It's important that we have positive relations with our employees and that we have a positive school environment, so you'll have an update on that survey in the spring. Fiscal responsibility, it's important to have a balanced budget. We recognize that, we go through that at every single board meeting. And our facility stewardship has brought us again to the referendum table in April, so you're receiving lots of update on our facility stewardship. The most important thing about our goal update is really what's the heart and soul of the work that's getting done. And in order to understand that, we've brought forward the high school, middle school, and elementary, and our special ed update. At our next month's meeting, Dick will be going through more of a curriculum update with us to be more comprehensive. So with that, I would like to start with the high school update.
Come on, team. Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight I brought with me Amanda Hoppy, our social studies team leader, Kathy Klingenberg, our special ed team leader, and Scott Greminger, our associate principal. This summer, when we met as a team and our team leaders, what we started talking about is what is our dream? What is our dream for our students? And that's really what our vision is. It's our dream, and our dream is for all of our students to reach their full potential, to become college and career ready. And that there's a lot of things that are involved within the vision, and we're going to talk a little bit about the things that go underneath the vision. One quote that we talked about in this team leader meeting is by 2020, 65% of all jobs in the economy are going to require some sort of post-secondary education. And so we wanted to have a focus with that, because more and more jobs are requiring not just a high school diploma, so we want to get our kids prepared when they do graduate from high school. So then we have our mission. That's the push of how we're going to reach our vision and our dream. And when you go into our classrooms, this is what we want you to see. We want you to see critical thinking in our classrooms. We want you to see collaborating. You're going to see students working together, solving real-world problem solving, using technology. And we believe that all of these things are what's going to help with our students becoming college and career ready.
We also realize that we need to teach our students to have good character, and we can do that by emphasizing our 3 simple values that we have, and that is to be respectful, be responsible, and to be successful.
When you have people that you work with, you definitely want people that are going to be following these 3 expectations. And we talk to our kids about this quite a bit, of what it means to be respectful, what it means to be responsible, and what does success really mean? What does it mean to be successful? And our definition at the high school of success is knowing that you have tried your best to become the best you can be. And you are going to have struggles each and every day, whether it's in the classroom or on the basketball court. But if you try your best each and every day, you're respectful to one another, you have your responsibility, that's all that we can ask out of our students and our staff.
So our school-wide goal is during the 2016-17 school year, we will have an average improvement of 5% in college and career readiness in each of the 4 subject areas as measured by the Aspire for grades 9 through 10 and the ACT for grade 11. That's our ultimate goal.
And when we met as a team, we realized this is a very lofty goal to get 5% of our kids to be considered college and career ready in all 4 areas. But we want to set our sights high. We want to push our staff, we want to push our students to reaching their full potential, and because that's what success really is. Here's some data that we have based on last year's ACT Aspire scores and based on our goals. So if you look in the blue graph is where we were last year, with our current juniors, how they did last year on the ACT Aspire. In the orange, that's our 5% increase, that's our goal, that 5% increase. In the red, what we did this year is we gave an ACT practice test for our juniors to see how many of our students were considered college and career ready. And based on where we are at right now, our math has done a phenomenal job. We're at a 10% increase in college and career ready. Within reading, we're at a 2% increase. Within science, we're at a 4% increase. And English, we did not do very well in English. And so the English team started looking at each and every question. And you could see like how many students got number 1 correct, how many got number 1 wrong on this practice test. And they went all the way through the 60 or the 75 questions. And throughout the 75 questions, they noticed that our major deficits were in word choice and organization. So that's something that we're going to look at now within our curriculum and make sure that we are putting that into our curriculum because we're struggling in those areas. And we've also been having some ACT prep sessions where our students have been practicing those areas as well. We also talked to our students and asked them, why do you think you did so poorly on the English? Some kids were like, I couldn't get 5, I didn't have enough time. Because we give them an actual ACT practice test, one that was given to students 2 years ago. And it's 75 questions in 60 minutes. Some kids were like, I didn't finish in time. I didn't finish 5 of them. I didn't finish 10. I didn't finish 20. So if you're not finishing on time, you're getting those questions wrong and you're not going to reach that college and career ready benchmark. So some of the students said, I know I have to read a little bit quicker. I can't focus on these questions so long. I have to move on to the next question. We're very proud of how we are closing the achievement gaps and we are improving as a school district. The line, the horizontal line is the state average. And we can go back to 2007 all the way to last year. And you can see that we are getting closer to that state average and we are closing the achievement gaps. We believe that with our local assessments, with our staff really looking at the data, that we will get to this. We will get to being above the state average. And that's a major goal for our teams and our students. Well, like I said a little bit earlier, our goal is very lofty. We need to have that 5% increase. And we're going to hold that vision of all students becoming college and career ready and reaching their full potential. And we are trusting the process that it takes time, and we will continually reevaluate where we are at and look at ways to improve.
So one of the things that the staff is doing to support our school-wide goal is in curriculum and instruction. And part of our goal is to have, by the end of the school year, 100% of our teachers will complete one additional curriculum map. And currently, we have 88% of our classroom teachers completed their power standards and ICANN statements for the school year. So we are well on our way to our 100% goal for that, for curriculum and instruction.
Another area that we wanted to focus on this year is analyzing our student data and developing student interventions to help improve student learning. Some of our current progress, we meet with our students on Mondays during enrichment time to look at their grades and try to help them with organization skills. We also have skills classes for students that are struggling. Let's say they're struggling in English 9. We have skills classes to help them catch up in their standards that they're struggling in. And by doing that, this year we have reduced our Fs by 24%, which is a huge number that we're extremely proud of. And this is just looking at where our Fs have been at the end of the first semester in the last 3 years.
For a certain subject that
Yeah, English actually was. Yeah, English was, and then so we added 3 skills classes, one for English 9, one for English 10, and one for English 11 to help reduce those Fs. And like we talked already, we have the ACT prep team that has developed practice tests for our juniors. And we also offered night sessions where the kids can come in to get different ACT test prep strategies, and 54 of our students participated in that class. We have 54 out of approximately 140 students. And when we compare with other districts, like our neighboring district of Everest, they had 90 students and they have approximately 600. So we had a lot more students actually sign up. They charge their students $90 to participate. Our English, science, and math departments have been, like we talked about already, progress monitoring using what's called an open ed program, where a student can take an electronic test and they can see what areas they're struggling in. And let's say they struggle in median and mode. What they'll do is they can click on different projects or sample questions to help them improve in those specific areas. And you can see a dramatic increase in our algebra areas by taking these open ed tests, as well as within science. It looks like they've increased tremendously, but they've increased 3 points, which is a lot of points. And then the last thing on our current progress is the English, science, and math departments are building local assessments where we're constantly, like we said, we're constantly looking at how our kids are performing throughout the year, and then modifying our instruction based on what our kids are struggling.
Okay, we're also looking at our culture, students being successful academically as well as behaviorally within the high school. So the first point there, increasing the AP and dual credit options. Click on that, please. This chart shows a comparison of our dual credit courses and AP from 2012 up through now, 2017. The top is the offerings that we have at our school. The bottom are the number of courses selected by students taking dual credit and AP classes.
As you can see, our staff is really proud of this too, and I'll have staff members come to me and say, is there an English class that we can look at to help our kids? That they can go to NTC and they can get more college credit. I'm like, absolutely, we've been working really hard with NTC. Dick and I have been meeting with NTC and finding more classes for our students, because every class they can take, they can save $1,000. Every class that they take is a dual credit class, they can save $1,000 if it's underneath their major.
The second point, the PBIS team developing behavior expectations for students. You're going to see a chart, a grid, again talking about our values, being responsible, respectful, and successful. And it's a chart showing the different settings and the behaviors that are expected within the high school. The third point, we just increased privilege requirements, and that's going to be an expectation for next year that's being discussed, where students need to have a C- or better in order to get privileges at the high school. There's been a lot of grumbling this week about that, but we do feel that that is a great way to reduce the number of Fs and increase student motivation.
So everybody has their privileges even if they get Fs?
No. What we've had currently here, when we first came on board, it was a D- or better, so no Fs. And as a staff and as a team leaders, and really the whole entire staff, said we need to really raise those expectations. A D- isn't good enough, and so we have raised it, and the staff decided we should go with a C- or better, and so we're at that area right now.
Can I ask you how many students that would be roughly? At all times?
What do you think?
It only applies to juniors and seniors.
Seniors.
Right. It only applies to juniors and seniors.
Are the only ones with privilege, but how many do you think are in that category?
I'd say roughly, what, 2/3 of our juniors probably have them.
Currently, correct.
So maybe a third of.
Privileges are important to high school.
Well, it is, that's what I mean, I would think it's, yeah.
Go B-.
What's that?
B-.
I would like
Yeah,
to
we
see.
talked back and forth as a staff, and as a staff, we, as the majority, went with the C- right now, and obviously, like we talked, it's an ongoing process. We will reevaluate that and see how it's going with the C-.
I would encourage that before you make another decision, you don't have to, but I would love to be able to provide some input to you.
Brenninger and a team of teachers visited some different schools, and I like this idea a lot. Students who are failing at the end of a semester with a 50% or just close to that D minus, the F, have the opportunity, if the teacher agrees and they sign a form, to make up some work that maybe didn't get done to recover that credit. They don't get a grade, they get a P that replaces the F, so it does not increase their grade point average, but it does let them have that credit for a class. Again, it's a signed contract, it has to be agreed with the teacher, and we just implemented it for the first time, and you said we have 3?
Right, so we piloted it with teachers who are willing to volunteer, and we've had 10 students that were nominated by by the teachers that have completed their forms. Got 3 of them who have finished already, and the other 7 are on track by the end of that 3 weeks that we give them. So that way they don't take the entire course over again. Credit.
So for purposes of your metrics, is that considered an F? Or do your Fs decline, but your Ps,
No.
do you
It
you
still
start
stays
tracking
an
the
F.
Ps, it
Yeah.
still stays
Stays
an
an
F?
F.
Okay.
Just earn the credit.
Okay.
But they don't have to retake the class.
Okay.
Then one of our other goals dealt with community engagement, and one of the ways we want to get all of our information out to students, parents, and other families in the community. So we have a lot of different means that we communicate. This year we have implemented Canvas that the teachers are using, and students have really been liking that because they can see what their homework is at night, or if they're absent for a day, they can just log into Canvas. And instead of having to wait for that paper to come back, and get a handout the next day, they can simply log in at night when they're absent and start working on their homework when they're ill. Teachers, and we've been using a lot more Skyward to send out emails to parents and to the students, communicate with them that way. New this year, we tried online registration through Skyward, and I think it went fairly well. A couple of bugs to work out, as with anything that's new, but we had seen a lot of positive comments from families. They can register at home, they don't have to come in anymore. We've also been using e-funds to pay things online, and we're moving that to Skyward this for next year too, so that should streamline some more things. We continue to send out our newsletters to families every 6 weeks, and that gets posted on social media. If you guys follow our social media accounts, we post a lot, whether it's academic, athletic, performances, whatnot. We do have our pretty active Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts.
We need to get that flashback Thursday.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet.
She was just telling me, you better get on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, throwback.
Go back Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. Well, I just went that one.
She doesn't know because she's not on it. I'm like, nope, she's not.
We also continue with our freshman orientation, our 8 to 9 night in August, to have our new students and new freshmen come to the school and get them acclimated. And then, as you're well aware, we started our one-to-one with Chromebook, which has had really great successes.
So I think you've seen, we have done a lot of work this year. Our staff has really worked extremely hard. They understand that to be successful, that it's an ongoing process, and we will continue to look at how we can get better, and we will evaluate what we did well and where we can improve. Because quality is a race with no finish line. Are there any questions?
Of the dual credit classes, where my understanding is the kids take a test at the end of the year, they pay a fee and can take a test, receive college credit,
That's those are the advanced placement courses, correct?
Of the advanced placement courses that we offer, what percentage of the kids taking that class, number one, take the test at the end, and two, how many of them actually receive the credit?
That's a good question. I don't have that data on here, but it really varies from course to course.
We can bring that back to
We
you
can
though.
definitely bring
I
it
think
back.
that would be worth knowing.
Yeah. And the nice thing with the dual credit course is it's just a grade at the end. You don't have to take a test at the end. You're just following the standards and whatever your grade is there. So if you're taking a dual credit psych with NTC with Mr. Holbrook, if you got a B minus in his class, you just save $1,000 and you have a B minus if you go to NEC, or if you go to UW Madison, or if you go to UW Parkside. So that's the positive with the dual credit compared to the AP, where you still have to pay to take that national exam, and then you have to pass.
Is it the whole UW system?
It is.
Or is it certain schools specifically?
No, this, the whole system has bought into this. And that's why when you look at that, you see that we have a huge number of dual credit classes now. We're really pushing for that and for our kids to take them.
And some of those dual credit classes are more hands-on, like I'm a special ed. I have kids that do dual credit, and they can get a tech class, a welding, there's a parent and family classes. There are different ones that apply to all kids.
Okay. Thank you.
Good presentation, like working towards a target vision
Thank you.
and strategy. You did a great job identifying your opportunity. Your opportunity is data-driven, right? Off of your data right now is 37% in English, and you identified a root cause. The root cause is major deficiency in English word choice and organization. And the strategies right now for that were to incorporate that more in the curriculum and standards.
Within the curriculum, so the English curriculum, we're doing that. And right now, the English 11 classes are working on that to help them prepare within the next month here. But then we also want to add that within the curriculum for our sophomores, so that we don't have this issue next year when we give this test again.
And social studies isn't represented on the ACT, so our department has taken the approach that we are supporting literacy strategies within our department. Word choice, decoding, vocabulary building, reading comprehension. So we're working towards this ultimate goal, even though we're not tested on the ACT, the social studies department supports literacy in the English.
That's a really good point, because every teacher is doing that right now. They're all adding literacy strategies to help with that goal.
That makes sense.
Like I just met with Mr. Promotion today, his goal for the year is to increase more literacy strategies within his welding class.
And that makes
Well,
sense.
well, just from the standpoint from positive feedback for us.
Yeah.
Okay, you identified the opportunity. What are you doing about it? The strategy you just mentioned, I really appreciate hearing those. And if there is a collaborative effort between the standards and curriculum committee, you know, agenda items and momentum there, that'd be a good path to move forward, maybe.
Thank you.
You know, I would just add that as the parent of a junior, I just gotta take the ACT in a little bit. And I feel like a winner as a parent, because my kid took I paid the $20 and he's taking the class. But for those of you that know Albert, he's pretty matter of fact with me, and he found it to be incredibly useful and well done by your staff. If it were for a basketball game, he would have got to stay for the whole thing. But he found it really useful. He spoke very highly of the staff. It's just too bad that we have to invest that kind of time teaching kids how to take a test, and not necessarily providing more information. And I know you all feel that way, but I couldn't help myself. I had to say it. But I appreciate all the work that's going into it with the ACT. So.
But you would all want us to have our kids do well in the ACT, I'm sure. And that's why we're putting that extra time in to helping all those kids. And I've had parents come and say, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Your staff has been doing a phenomenal job. And so we know what's important for the community, and that's why we're going to continue doing it.
I mean, I think it'll be really beneficial to the board to see what the results for those 50 kids are. If we can look at how they tested pre-prep, and we look at what the forecasted score was going to be, and if post-prep they're all up 2 or 3 points, then we might want to look at that and be able to either make it more affordable for kids that can't or integrate it somehow.
Some schools offer it as an elective class too, an ACT prep. It's an option.
I mean, I would vote to eliminate your privileges altogether, and the kids can actually go to study hall and study and prep for the ACT as part of it. That's just.
Thank you, everybody.
Student board rep has something to say.
Our attendance rate might go down. Our attendance rate might go down.
I'm gonna drop.
That was the goal.
Don't get me on camera. Crap you out.
Your crew.
Oh, awesome. He wants to be in the middle school.
Presentation
All right, well, good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Mosinee Middle School, I'd like to say thanks for letting us come here and share our midway progress with everyone. We got a lot of tall guys on our team, so we're just trying to play basketball. But essentially, so just to introduce my team to everybody, it's the same team leads that we had last year, but we added a new 4th grade team lead, Krista Treader there on the top, and Tony Bagby, our 5th grade team lead, next to her there. And then the rest, Justin Jacobs, Paul Novinsky, Taylor MD, and Sarah Kaiser, and Megan Keeler were all on our team last year. So this is our team lead group that meets once a month and sets a lot of the priorities for the rest of our groups when they get together. We also set an overarching goal for our building. When we got together in August, we looked and we said, what can we do as a middle school that is going to get buy-in from every single member of our staff? So as opposed to setting just a literacy goal or just a math goal, how can we make it overarching and encompassing so that everybody can buy into it and everybody can say, you know what, whatever I'm doing or whatever I'm doing to improve the work of my kids in my classroom, it's going to improve our school in general. So we said Mosinee Middle School will analyze data and improve instruction so that our student learning performance will increase, as evidenced by the local and state assessments that we have to provide. Specifically, the Wisconsin Forward exam that our kids take here in the spring, and they're aligned to our defined standards in each content area. So what we're going to do, last year was the first year that we took the Wisconsin Forward exam at the middle school. So we have our basically our baseline data. We will take it again this spring, and then we're going to compare and contrast that when they come out at the end of July. We'll look and see, did all the things that we have done throughout this school year have an impact on what our scores were on that test? So what we did is we developed 5 goals in different areas. And the first one was we looked at was curriculum instruction improvement. How can we do that at the middle school and improve our overarching goal? So what we looked at was during this school year, the middle school's content area teams will create and utilize at least one local assessment to analyze our student learning data and use that information to better inform our instructional practices and respond to our individual learner needs. Basically, to put that into terms that are a little bit more easy to understand, we said we want every single content area team within our school to create a local assessment that they can be happy with and use at the end of the year, that they can say it should be an accurate predictor of how well our kids are going to do on that state test, because we don't really want to have to rely on what the state test is. We want our teachers to be able to give an exam or an assessment that they can accurately predict. And so what I've asked my team to do tonight is, all of our content area teams are doing that, but I wanted to give you just one example from each one of our goals. So I asked Paul Novinsky, our social studies, one of our social studies teachers, to explain how the social studies department is working through that to create these local assessments that are going to help improve this. So I'll turn it over to Paul.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think social studies is the most important subject because you need to be good citizens. Yeah, okay? If you can't read, that's okay, but if you're not a good citizen, that's not okay. That's a joke. But what we've been doing so far, anytime you can do a local thing designed for your students and what you want to accomplish, it's way better than somebody from the state telling you what you have to do. So what we've been doing is we've been having 4 through 12 meetings, curriculum meetings, trying to get our curriculum aligned to what we want and taking analysis of it. We've been curriculum writing, and then we've been developing local common assessments. And what local common assessments are is something we design that the kids take at each grade level that's designed for what we want to design with an outcome that we can evaluate before we take a state test. And I think it'll give us a better idea of what we're doing locally and what we need to fix. And so what we've done, the next slide if you want to go. And soul studies, we had a big debate about what we do and how do you do soul studies. Soul studies is a little different than most subjects because each grade level has a designed curriculum that has a purpose. 4th grade it's Wisconsin, 5th grade it's the United States, 6th grade it's Ancient Civ, and it continues to go that way. So how do we do this? So one of the things we decided to do is skill-based. Instead of looking at just knowledge-based, what skills could they demonstrate that would prove to us that they are getting these every year, and that it's growing and it's increasing as it goes up. So we use things like geographical skills, political science skills, economics, history, behavioral science. One of them would be in 4th grade. Can you do a mental map of Wisconsin? Do you know where the Great Lakes are? In 5th grade, can you identify places in the United States like Washington, D.C., Florida, and things like that? In 7th grade, can you tell us more capitals of the states? Can you identify more specific things? Can you go more regional and outside of that? And so when we talk about political science, economics, history, they're more skill-based, and each grade level has some questions in it, so we can give the 4th grade kids a test, and then we give them that same test, similar test in 5th grade, and measure where have they come, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. I think we have one more slide. We are almost done with it. Amazingly, I thought it would take years to do. We are probably 1 or 2 meetings away from it. It's going extremely well. I think it's probably more of the beneficial meetings that I've been in. I think it'll be a rough draft, and we'll fine tune it, but it'll give us more idea of what our local kids are doing.
Thank you, Paul. And realistically, all of our content area teams are doing this same kind of thing, where they are creating these assessments, and we're starting to focus more on what are the skills, not necessarily the content, but the skills that they're going to need to know, so you can actually measure those skills from grade level to grade level to grade level, even though the content changes. The second goal that we set for ourselves to tie back to that overarching goal was an assessment and data improvement goal. And so what we have decided is that this year at the middle school, we're going to gather and analyze at least 3 data points. And that's at least. We're going to show you a lot more than that to actually try and fine tune what we're doing. But the idea is from local and state assessments in order to triangulate student progress so the teachers can improve student learning through changes to instructional practices. So essentially, we're going to use all kinds of different data points to evaluate how our students are doing, and then make instructional changes based on that. So the example that I asked here was, I asked Paul to come and talk about our student services team. Our SST meets weekly, and they look at a lot of different data points for kids, and then they talk about different intervention strategies that we can use. So Paul's going to talk about some of the different data points that we use and how we use them to evaluate our students.
So, like Mr. Sween said, that our MMS team, we look at a lot of data, and the reason that we're doing that is really to improve our student learning. That's what it's about. It's about taking our kids up to the next level. So it gives us a great in-depth look at what our students, where they're at and where we want them to go. And more importantly, it's following the RTI, the response to interventions process, for academics and for behaviors. We look at data on both sides. So one of the data sources that we look at, and this is from our WISE-local, and what it is it populates all of our discipline referrals for a year for a quarter. So if you take a look at this, this is from our first semester data, and it tells us where maybe where we need to look at coming up with lessons for instruction for universal tier 1 lessons, just some hot areas. Take a look at the next one. It tells us where most of them are occurring. Most of them are occurring in the classroom. So what we've asked our classroom teachers to do, besides following our core values, is to come up with a classroom matrix to help simplify so our students understand what's right, what's wrong. And it shows us where these things are happening. We're also looking at playground things. So what our PBS team will do is we'll come up and we'll look at that data and we'll say, okay, we're going to come up with a lesson that's hopefully going to improve hallway behavior, playground behavior, bus behavior. So that's what we're doing with that. The next chunk, if you take a look at it, just some local assessments. We call it the top 10, top 15 list. So we,
Number 1.
sorry Matt, you are number 1.
Well, you're kind of,
Well, you're tied with Corey, so. But what we look at is it's an office disciplinary referral, and then we look at attendance and we'll look at our forward data. And what it does is it gives our teams, and we created that this summer at our data retreat, just to give our teams coming in a little synopsis of what and where their kids are at. For attendance wise, we can look at that and say, okay, hey, we need to make some connections with these kids right away. We need to be doing some phone calls home, because we know if they're not at school, they're not going to be learning what we need them to learn. So it's something that we look at ongoing. We do top 10 lists throughout the year. Another piece of the data that we'll look at is a STAR math test score, and it's just a great way to calculate where they're at. And if you take a look at the different colors, you can use that for urgent intervention. In intervention, they're on watch or they're at their benchmark. And so this student was at a 727 in math, so they're at or above. If they were in the red area, you know, what interventions are we doing? And that's what our SST, we're gonna have those conversations with our classroom teachers. Here's where our kid is at, what are we doing for them? How are we getting them up? Then we'll track that data. We'll track that data. This is a different test. This is you can see they started off at 645, and in a semester's time, we had a gain up to 827. So what that really tells us is it tells us that they were far below grade level to start, and now we got them up to below grade level. They made a great gain in a Lexile for a half of a year. So it tells us that our interventions that we're doing with this child are working. We have some that go the other way, so now we need to relook and talk about that and find out why it's not working. So it's really looking at the whole student. So we'll look at attendance, we'll look at discipline, we'll look at their math, their reading, their test scores, and we'll look at, like Mr. Nowinski says, we'll look at what our local assessments are telling us to. But there's nothing more important than our teacher's perspective of that student, because they're with them every day in the classroom. And last but not leastly, Mr. Sweeney touched on that we took the forward test last year, and this just gives us an overall look of a fourth grade student that we had last year and where they are. So we'll look at this data right away in the early fall when it comes out. And so we'll have discussions, and we'll ask our teams to have discussions on these students so we can better track where our students are. Any questions? Yes?
Do you feel like in these tests that you get 100% effort from the kids, or do some of them look at like, this doesn't affect me and my grades, so whatever?
That is one of the things that's why we use multiple data sources to look and see where a kid is at. Because we did run into that with a couple of kids. When we got the forward data back, we were like, this kid shows below basic in every single area, but all of our local assessments are showing that they're doing well. They participate, there's no behavior issues, they're at school every single day. And then we go back and, we pull that kid in and we say, so what happened on this day? And you sometimes find out, well, I don't really try that hard that day, or I didn't really care. And so that's the whole purpose of looking at multiple data points, because otherwise, if you looked at it and you said, wow, this kid is really struggling, that's only one measurement. It's really important to look at multiple. So, that's what we do. Thank you. The third one that we decided to work on was a school and environment improvement goal, and we really dug in deep at our August retreat and looked at that school perceptions data, and that's where we got this goal from. And we looked at the middle school and we said the three big areas that we really need to focus in on were trust, communication, and discipline expectations within our school. And we set some specific goals for those: 10% increase in trust, 10% in communication, and a lofty 36% in discipline expectations. And what we did along the way is, Justin, I'll let you kind of explain how we did that.
So kind of going back up to that last one we talked about, you don't want to just use the one data point. We decided to take a couple of those questions and revisit them a couple times throughout the year after we developed our action steps, things like that, to see whether or not we were improving on those things throughout the year. If we actually go back a slide, oh, sorry. We've actually got our action steps in here. These are a couple of the big numbers we pulled out, positives, negatives, things like that. But then down in here, we identified some action steps. So it wasn't just, here's our goal of how we want to improve, but we want to make sure we had a plan in place to make sure we did those things. First one being trust. Josh is doing listening sessions, went to an open door policy. We tried to make sure that we were reaching out, having more staff get-togethers, making sure people are all on board. There's a lot more transparency. We all feel that we're all invested together on everything. Second one was our communication goal. So we did do a lot more of getting things out, again, coming back to those listening sessions, making sure that everyone's aware of what happens at these meetings, even though not every teacher can make it to all of these meetings. But making sure everyone's aware of what's going on, making sure we're celebrating positives, knowing what's going on in our schools at all times. And the last one was our discipline. There was some low numbers as far as whether or not discipline was handled consistently, so we wanted to make sure we addressed that as a whole staff. We talked about making sure that things are identified. We understand why Paul is disciplined in a certain way. And then we talked a lot about, if you're not happy with it, we want to make sure that as a staff we feel comfortable. We can go back to Paul and say, hey, you know, we'd like to see more, maybe we can make some recommendations and make sure it's more about a team effort and discipline when some of these issues, you know, Paul just kind of gets the secondhand information. You know, if we're there in the trenches and we see what happened, we can kind of work together as a team, make sure that we really hit the right goal here. So that brought us to our first one. Just right around Thanksgiving, we gave our first one. We took those 3 goals and we asked questions regarding them. From the school perception survey back in May, we were at 50% of all staff trust our leadership in the building, and we're currently up to, what was it, 82% of staff is trusting the leadership in our building, so we thought that was a positive improvement. As we look at goal number 2, we went from 30% of staff that feel we have an open culture of dialogue to 74%. So it's a huge step in the right direction. We're doubling where we were at. As we talked about in our team lead meetings, that's an awesome start, but we're still 26% of staff feel that we don't have that open culture, so still room to grow, but we're only halfway through the year of implementing these policies, and we can continue to work on this for the next couple of years. The last one was one we talked about with student discipline, starting out at 14% of staff feeling it was handled consistently. We tried to set some lofty expectations of getting to 36% there, and we were up into the 60% for people are seeing that it's handled more consistently or handled properly, which we thought was a great improvement as well. We did ask one other question then, because we thought, you know, this is great, we've got these 3 identified goals, but when we got together before we handed out this new survey, we kind of wanted to encompass everything. Where does the staff just overall feel we're at? So we asked, just overall, have we improved trust communication, student discipline since the last survey? And we were at 84%, I believe it was, so we're pretty happy with those improvements. Part of this survey that we did as well is Josh and I worked together to create it. And then we proposed it at a staff meeting, said, hey, we're going to open this up. You guys will automatically have results, or access to the results, which we thought was important. Going back to that transparency discussion earlier, that some people feel that even though you give out that Google form, you don't have to sign in, there's no login required, there's no way of tracking their information. Some people just feel Big Brother is always watching. So we wanted to make sure they had access to the results right away. People could see that no one's tracking them. They're not going to get fired because they said they only slightly trust the administration of their building. So we thought that was important, and it appears to be we're heading the right track. So.
Great. Thanks, Justin. And that's the big thing that I've talked about with the staff, because we shared this out with the entire staff. We talked about it as team leads. We like the trend, the direction we're going in. But we also acknowledge that there are still people who disagree or are still having issues, and that's something we're not going to say, oh, we're at 80%, that's good enough. No, that's not good enough. We're going to continue to keep working and try to do better. The 4th goal that we set for our building to tie back to our overarching goal was a strategic family and community engagement. And essentially what we decided is we wanted every single one of our grade level teams to create at least one new partnership with a family or community member so that our school and community will continue to work collaboratively in order to improve student learning. So every team is doing this. I asked Krista Trutter and Tony Bagby, our 4th and 5th grade team leads, to do that. Both of them had instances tonight where their children were playing in a sports event tonight, and it's a playoff, so they all want to go to that. So I said, I will help. They actually tried to record something, but it wouldn't download correctly. Technology, they didn't have Brady right next to him. So. Okay, so I'll share a little bit of what they came up with. Essentially, 4th grade just gave some examples of the things that they've been doing this year. So a couple of examples is they had the kids do a positive letter to the parent about their children. The teams do that immediately. Holiday classroom potluck with parent helpers. So it was kind of cool. That was a day when I ate a lot of food, obviously, but everyone in the classrooms had their own little holiday potluck. And the parents coming in to help out with that. It was phenomenal to go into those rooms and see all the parents coming in to help. Monthly cards created for community members, so they actually have the kids create cards and they send them out to community members to say, hey, the school's thinking about you. They did things for Veterans Day, they've done things for other things as well. Parent and community members talking about their careers, so they do bring in parents to talk about different careers, and that's been going on for quite a while. But it's really cool to walk in and see the light on a kid's face when their dad or their mom comes in to share with them what they do, and the kids love it. Parents and community members are also invited in the classroom to read. So just a couple of pictures. On the left you can see a dad telling students about his job. And then you have a whole group of parents at the holiday party, classroom potluck, so helping out. So anything we can do to get community members or parents into our building, we feel that that's going to be a positive impact on our children. So it's going to go a long way. That was what 4th grade was doing. 5th grade, they did an online daily planner page for parents and students on the MMS webpage, so parents can go on and look and see exactly what's going on in each one of the classes in 5th grade every single day. They participated in early intervention conferences where they pinpointed specific kids within the grade that they felt they were struggling, that they wanted to get parents in immediately before we got too deep in. They didn't want to wait till the end of the first quarter to call in parents. So about 6 weeks into the school year, they were calling parents already to bring them in to have team meetings to say, we got to figure something out now. Remind an MMS newsletter. So one of the things that we're doing as a building is we're sending out text messages to parents through Remind, anybody who signed up for it. And we have a newsletter that goes out monthly. And so every grade level can actually put in their own little article to go out in the newsletter that goes out to parents. So they do that on a consistent basis. Holiday community activities, reading to Mosinee preschoolers and ornament making for area businesses, science fair, and we also did a Super Bowl drive along in conjunction with the elementary school. So just different things to help the community. And there's some pictures of the big science fair that they did for the 5th grade and all the parents that came in to see the science fair. It was a pretty cool day. And they'll do another one this spring, so they'll have 2 science fairs. The 5th goal is, and this is the last one that we set for our building, was a professional learning and improvement goal. And that essentially was to create professional learning community teams that are going to do things to help improve not only what's going on with our kids, but also the education level of our teachers. So we wanted to create a PBIS, emergency response team, response interventions team, and a scheduling team this year, and then we would track that professional development throughout our building. And Kelly is here to talk about that.
So with our PBIS team, you can see the members listed up there. So teachers sign up to be on these teams outside of their regular school day, so they do get their professional development points for that. So with the PBIS team, they focus on sustaining Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 systems of support for our students. So you can see the different members there. So again, all these people meet not only limited to our teachers, but also to our students. Our RTI team this year was ran through our student services team. So you can see the members there. Our emergency response team focused on updating our emergency procedures throughout the middle school. The team met a few times this year already and talked about what other option or what other ideas people had. A couple things that we did this year was the ALICE training. We also installed different latches or different hooks by the door, so if there was an intruder in the building, teachers know how to secure their building, secure their room properly, and also talk about different strategies for getting students to where they need to be safely. And we also have a scheduling team this year, led by Justin Jacobs, quite a few people on that. We're just looking at different ways to rearrange our schedule within our day, looking at different time constraints for different classes, looking at where the best times to hold study halls. We need to have a intervention block in there somewhere. So just kind of doing some of that research to see how we can better meet the needs of our students. Last year we had, at the end of the year, 90 points were earned at the middle school by the teachers. And this year already 67 points are earned. Once teachers earn those points, they move up the pay scale. So it's definitely an incentive for them to be on part of these teams and to earn those points.
And realistically, we just want our teachers to continue learning and growing and getting better for our students. So those are the 5 goals that we've set for our building that are going to tie back to our overarching goals. And I feel like we've made some great progress already this year. Any questions? Thank you.
Anyone need to do some jumping jacks?
Yeah, right.
didn't bring any sugar.
That's some food.
No cookies, no treats.
You got Mrs. Mills?
Thank you. That's only because of my
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the elementary school team. Come on, Mrs. Ortel and Mr. Soderberg. You can stand like right here. Okay. Mr. Soderberg is with us. We have Kelsey Ortel, our school psych in the back. Heather Skutek, first